それでは今朝の聖書の箇所を朗読いたします。今朝の聖書の箇所はエペソ人への手紙4章1節から1節です。それでは口語訳をします。さて、主にある囚人である私は、あなた方に進める、あなた方が召されたその召しにふさわしく歩き、できる限り謙虚で、かつ柔和である、寛容を示し、愛をもって互いに忍び合い、平和の絆で結ばれて、聖霊により一致を守り続けるように努めなさい。体は一つ、御霊も一つである。あなた方が召されたのは、一つの望みを満たして召されたのと同様である。主は一つ、信仰は一つ、バプテスマは一つ。すべてのものの上にあり、すべてのものを貫き、すべてのもののうちにいます。すべてのものの父なる神は一つである。それでは、ウェイン先生に、召しにふさわしく歩むと題してメッセージをいただきます。
Hi, good morning. Good morning. First, I apologize. My Nihongo is just really bad. So I hope that you guys can understand me. And if not, there's sheets in your bulletins to follow. If not, so yeah, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here with you all this morning. But first, before we get to or I share more about the verse that we just read. I thought that I'd take this opportunity to share a little bit more about myself, since this is probably the first time I have this opportunity to share with you all. So I was born into a Japanese-American family, so I am a fourth generation Japanese-American. So I'm a Yonsei. That's about all the Japanese I know. I was like, oh yeah, my parents just told me that our great-grandparents came from Japan, and ever since then we were here. So I was like, oh, okay, that's good to know. So I've been here for a long time, and so has my family. So my parents growing up, they were not religious in any way. So it was just interesting how I came to know Christ and know the church. But my grandmother, who lived with our family for as long as I can remember, was a Christian actually, and she was actually a Kibe. So she grew up in Wakayama in Japan. That was her hometown in the Kansai area. So she would show me pictures, and she would show me really, really neat things about what her parents did. So my great-grandmother had a little house church in Wakayama, and it was really neat to see the pictures and the small little church that they had, and just in a country that there was not a lot of Christians. It was just really, really encouraging to see part of my family, and me being part of the lineage of my grandmother. It was just really neat to see God in Japan. So I was really encouraged by that. And my grandma is still alive. She is 92 years old, so she's doing very well for herself. So I will definitely let her know that I had the opportunity to share this morning with you all. So yeah, at a young age, religion or faith, it wasn't really a big part of my life. It was my parents wanted myself. I have an older sister and a younger brother, so I'm right in the middle. So they really wanted us to be a part of the Japanese community. So we would play basketball at that time we were born in West Los Angeles, so at Advanced Community Center we did a lot of things with them, and just really kind of getting to know more of our heritage as a Japanese American. When I was about in kindergarten, my family moved to Cerritos, California, which is about a half hour from here. And that's where I was raised. I went to kindergarten, junior high, and high school. And that's where I came to not really know Christ, but I went to church actually because my parents, through the grapevine, I don't really know the complete story of this, but they got word of a church, a local church that had basketball teams. So they sent us to go play, just go play for the basketball. We want you involved. To this day, I don't really know how they found out about the Anaheim Free Methodist Church, but they sent us there, and they said, well, if you're going to play basketball for the church, you might as well go to the church too. So they would drop myself and my sister and my brother off for church every morning, and they would go to breakfast. And they would come back after Thanksgiving and pick us up. So for a long time, I didn't know adults went to church. I thought it was just a bunch of kids going to church every Sunday. So I was like, oh, I thought this was normal. So it was really neat that happened, because after that, I never really left the church. So after kindergarten, I never left that church. I've gone to that church for a very, very long time. And as I got more involved into the church, I met a lot of friends that I have to this day, and I went to a family camp that our Free Methodist Church puts on every summer in Santa Cruz, California. It's kind of like the Shiokai for the Nichigo congregations. And I went there probably in 5th or 6th grade, and after that, I went every other year, like after that too. So that's where I, met a lot of friends from different churches around this area and in the West LA area, and I got to know them, and I got to see them every year. We had fun together, and it was just really neat opportunity to meet more people and to meet a lot more Christians as well. When I was about 13, I'd say years old, around 12 or 13, that's when I gave my life to Jesus. That's when I became a Christian. That's when I said yes to this idea that Christianity is something that I wanted to personally believe in for my life, because it all kind of clicked for me, if that makes any sense. It kind of made sense that God was in my life, and that His hand was on my life. So it was really a very, very touching experience when I kind of look back on it and be able to see how that kind of affected my life even today. About 6 months after that, my parents at the time were separated, and then a little bit afterwards they were divorced. Nobody really saw that coming. It was a very, very, very difficult time. Very difficult time for the family and all of my siblings. But one, I think, constant that I had in my life that was just a constant reminder was my grandmother being there, because she was kind of the one always pushing us to go to church and to always do good, to really reminding us that that God was always still present in that. And she would actually get mad at us if we missed a week at church, and she would be like, why didn't you go to church? I was like, oh, Grandma, basketball game, or something. I'm sorry. So she was very, very good in actively making us want to go to church. So that became a part of my life as well. So growing up throughout high school, I'm very, very thankful for all my leaders who were in the church. And at the time it was very difficult for the family. It was very difficult, I think, for me in a lot of ways too, because it was like, okay, I become a Christian. I say yes to Jesus, and then a little bit after, this horrible thing happens to our family. So in my mind, I was like, why is this happening to me? Why I thought things were supposed to make more sense after we accept God into our lives. But I think quickly I learned that despite that, God is still with us. And from then on, I kind of had this sense that the hand of God was on my life. Can't really explain to you why, but I just really believe that the Lord really protected me and held me very, very close in a very intimate way, because I saw a lot of friends during that time go to drugs and experience in my life, and I thank God that He led me down the really, really right path. So I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful again for the leaders in my church that took care of me then. So when I graduated from college, I graduated with maybe three of my really, really good friends, and at the time, we had no idea what we wanted to do after college. After college, you kind of have an idea of what you want to do, with your life career and everything. And it was just kind of funny that us three, we had no idea what we wanted to do. We were just like, see what happens. It was kind of, I was kind of thinking about it too, because I was still going to church. I was very active, in the church. I was leading a Bible study, and I was just really trying to pray and go, God, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't really know what to do. Like, so God's calling on my life, and I know we use that term a lot, but His calling in my life was very in question because I just didn't know what to do for like a career choice or what type of vocation that I really wanted to do. So I was kind of just wondering during that time. So for the next couple of months after I graduated from college, I was kind of what I was going through. What am I going to do with my life? Like I was kind of like, I don't know, sort of like freaking out. Like, oh my gosh, like. But it was interesting that as I was at the Anaheim Free Methodist Church, my pastor at the time, Pastor Nancy Wong, she asked if I wanted to join their staff as their youth worker. And at first I was like, it sounds kind of fun and interesting because it's not like I'm doing anything anyway. Like I don't really, have anything to do right now. So I'll try it and I'll see where that will lead me. And so I said yes, and I joined the staff of the church. And I guess that, without really knowing, that kind of set the course for the rest of my life. So that was about 10 years ago or so, and from that day on, I stayed in the ministry of the church for that long. So I was very, very fortunate that my pastor at the time asked me, because I felt very fortunate that I got to do that. So 3 years later, maybe 2006, I decided to make the jump to go to the seminary school of Pasadena. It's called Fuller Theological Seminary. And I think it was then where I realized that God's call for my life was to be in the ministry and in the church, serving in any way that I possibly could. And that was very evident as I took classes. And another thing about me too is that I really, really dislike school. Like I don't really like studying. It was just, sometimes I realize, like, how did I get through college? Like, I kind of ask myself that a lot, but which is funny because in seminary I actually really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed my classmates. I really enjoyed what was being taught. I felt very fortunate to be in a situation like that. So that's a miracle in itself, and I know that that's something that God really, really blessed me with, and really, really gave me, I think, the tools to be able to be in a situation like that and be able to thrive and be able to enjoy my experience there. So I think from then on I knew that this is God's calling for my life was very, very, I think, specific to me. It was very, very, I knew it now. And that was very, very comforting for me to kind of be able to be in a place like that. So when I graduated from seminary, I joined staff with the EPIC movement, which is the Asian American branch of Campus Crusade for Christ. And I was on staff for 4 years, and then last year, Pastor Tanita here at the Anchor Church, he gave me a call and said, hey, do you want to, come to here to the South Bay with me and, join a church with me? I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So I actually got married this past June. So 7 months ago. Wow, that went by quick. So I got married, and then after we got married, we started coming here full time. My wife Erin, she could not be here this morning. She works at a hospital in downtown LA, but she works the graveyard shift. So she starts at 10 p.m. and gets off of work at 6:30 a.m. So she is sleeping right now because she had to work last night. So yeah, that was a big adjustment there as well. So yeah, I'm just feeling very grateful to be in an opportunity like this, to be able to share with you, be able to meet you guys. It's really a blessing, big blessing of mine to be here. So during my time at our church, I had the opportunity to go to Japan for 4 summers for all missions trips with the church and also with Campus Crusade for Christ. I went in June, July, and August, and it was probably the hottest, most humid, very. It's like you get out of the shower, it's like you're always wet when you get out of the shower. So it was a very, very hot, but it was a really, really neat time because I got to experience kind of where my family came from. So it was really good for me to kind of see where the roots of my family were, and also just being. I think just being in Japan was just a really cool thing for me because that was my first time kind of out of the country. So it was really cool to see kind of where my heritage was as a Japanese American. Yeah, so I really enjoyed my time there every summer, even though it was really hot. So maybe a year and a half ago, I had an opportunity to speak to some college students at the Horizon Chapel in Machida, and it was really encouraging to see a group of Japanese students who were Christian that were very, very passionate about the message of Jesus Christ. Because as I found out in Japan, there are very, very few Christians, and to have a group like that, it was just really neat to be able to speak to them and encourage them and really empower them to go out into their communities, their schools, their families, and just to know that they're very passionate about what they believe in about Jesus, to be able to spread that news to their friends and their communities. It was really encouraging for me to see that, and I think their example of faith, was very, very intimate to me because being here in America, there's a lot of people that believe in a lot of things, and there's millions of Christians here, but in Japan, that's just not the case, and I could see how those group of people, college students especially, could get very discouraged because there's not a lot of Christians to be supported by. So yeah, it was just a really neat time that I had. So I actually shared the verse that we read earlier to them from the book of Ephesians. So I'm going to read it again in English, so you guys can follow along if you want to. So this comes from Ephesians chapter 4, verses 1 through 6. As a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling that you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called. One Lord, one faith, one baptism. One God and Father of all, who is over all, and through all, and in all. I really enjoy that verse because it's a continual reminder, I think. It's a continual reminder to reflect about what is God's calling in my life. Now, most scholarship or really, really smart people would say that the book of Ephesians here that we just read is a letter that was written to more than one community back in the first century. So mean that this wasn't the first time a community of people read this, passage together. It was written to communities all around, back in the first century, kind of like, communities like this, here at the Anchor Church. It was written to communities that were very passionate, very faithful to Jesus Christ and his message. So I think, if we kind of relate this verse to us in our context here, in the South Bay, and we read it with eyes that say, yeah, I want to, live that life that's worthy of the calling that came from God, and have that affect how we live our lives with our families, with our friends, with the people around us, our communities. How is having Jesus in our life make us any different? And that's something that I ask myself constantly too, is how am I living my life that's worthy of the calling that he has given to me? I have a friend, I have a really good friend who kind of grew up in a very, very, very difficult upbringing. He had parents who were not really supportive of a lot of things that he did. Very, very, Japanese American as well. He's an Nisei though. So his parents were very, very distant. So growing up, he didn't really have, a father or a mother figure in his life. So he turned to a lifestyle that maybe wasn't the best thing for him. Experimented with drugs, hung around with gangs, hung around with people that, maybe he shouldn't have hung out with because it kind of got him into trouble sometimes. So, but those were the people that kind of brought him in and said you could be with us and you could have an identity. And interestingly enough, when I was serving at the Anaheim church, a friend, he was one of the friends of one of our students, and that student invited him to come to church. So I met him there, and he didn't say one word to me the first time we met. He just kind of looked at me like I was like, oh, okay, hi. But he kept coming. He kept coming, and for some reason, he just came to church every week and was very, very faithful. And slowly but surely, he would talk to me. I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting and kind of weird at the same time. But as he started coming more, he started to open up, and I believe that his life began to change because of what God and what the community and the church was doing for him. And it was really neat to be able to sit down and have a conversation with him and ask him what was going on in his life, the struggles that he had, the things that were bothering him, and how God fit into his life. He got himself into college. He actually graduated from college, and now he wants to give back in a way that is effective for him. He wants to work in law enforcement, in the probation department. I believe Pastor Keith worked in that field. So it's really, really neat to see that he kind of figured out his calling in his life and what he wanted to do with his life because of the upbringing that he had, because he understands that the people, what people go through at a very young age and the decisions that they make, that he wanted to give back and serve those people, and that he is doing that to this day. And it's really encouraging to talk to him and see how God has kind of been leading his life and being able for him to be able to serve the people that were in his shoes as a teenager. So it was just really neat to see that he actually found his calling and what he wanted to do because of his really terrible upbringing. And just his desire to do good and what is right in the eyes of God is just encouraging for me as well. So with that all being said, we all have a story. We all have upbringings and things that we did and things that we're not very proud of. things that maybe, hopefully, nobody will find out because maybe they won't like us. But God is faithful. I believe that God will never leave us. God cares about us so much that despite what we did or our past or what the things that we're not very proud of, that God is still there. And if we choose what is right and what brings peace, He will bless us in our efforts. So this morning I just wanted to encourage us to continue to do right and to continue to do good. And in those places I believe that God will really, expose us to what our callings should be. Sometimes it takes a lifetime to figure that out, and I'm still figuring that out too myself. And every day it's a struggle to really kind of grab that and go, all right, God, I'm going to do this for you, when that's not even the right thing. But, that's part of life, isn't it? That's part of the life that we live. That's part of the daily struggle with God. So again, going back to this verse, I really enjoy it, the Ephesians verse, because it's truly a reminder to continue to pray and reflect the calling that God has for our lives and our lives as well. And that if we kind of take time to think about what that means for us, and if we all did that as a church, oh man, that would be so neat. Because we could all go into our communities and our families and be able to be effective witness for Jesus Christ. And if we don't know where to start, just if we can take a look at that verse again, I think we all have the capacity to be humble, gentle, and patient in dealing with others. So I pray that that would be a motivation for us individually and as a church, as we bring the saving news of Jesus Christ to our friends, to our families, to our communities, one step at a time. And I know that that's not something that will happen overnight, and then sometimes it could take forever. But I really believe that God will bless us in our efforts and in the ways that maybe we won't even realize as well. So that's what I wanted to say this morning, and I thank you again for allowing me to share with you all. Let me close in prayer. God, thank you for giving us this opportunity to be able to be with you this morning, God. Thank you that you've called us to be humble and gentle and patient, Lord, in dealing with others. And Father, I pray that as a church we'd be able to do that, and we'd be able to go in our communities to really be able to be a light and shine bright for you, Lord. So God, thank you for this time and thank you for this opportunity again. In your name I pray. Amen.